What's up, everybody? This is episode 18 of Hoops Talk with Dave's Joint. Um, Thank you, everybody that's been supporting. Right now, we're at 20 subscribers on YouTube. You know, tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe to that page and keep checking out the content. We also have IGTV and our Facebook page if you want to see it. But without further ado, we have a special guest today, Coach Carmen Maciariello, the head coach of Siena College. Coach, thank you for coming on to talk to me and sharing your testimonial.
Appreciate it, Dave. Obviously, known you a while, and anything I can do to help and to, keep everybody here on the same page and locked in for the greater good. It's all we could do.
Indeed. So, my first question for you is, what's your coaching philosophy?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate. I've worked for so many great bosses, from Jamion Christian to Fran McCaffrey and Ed Cooley, Joe Jones. So many guys that have also been molded by great coaches. Obviously Ed worked for Al Skinner for a long time, and Fran worked for Digger Phelps and John McLeod, and Joe Jones worked for Jay Wright. So so many guys have impacted my life. I think my philosophy is I'm a player's coach. And Siena basketball is a players program. And, I want guys that want to, be the best they can be every single day. And on top of that, I'm just kind of the guy that kind of tries to put them all together to a form of a great common team that's working for one goal. And I would say, I love being an aggressive team where we can attack the basket, attack the paint, and we can score points in transition. And we also can score points off of the offensive glass and at the free throw line.
Awesome. So, talk about, when did basketball come into your life?
Oh, that's a great story, which I'll abbreviate. I was in fourth grade. Our neighbors down the street were going to Siena basketball camp. I had never played basketball before. I think I had just gotten my first pack of basketball cards at the store. And so I was kind of interested, and that was back when Jordan was in his second year. So I obviously started following Michael Jordan then. I was, like I said, fourth grade, go to Siena camp, and they tell me I'm no good. I get the report card at the end of the camp, and I get all ones, and I'm thinking that's good, but fives were the best number you could get, and I didn't have any of those. And it basically said, hey, you're a great kid, but basketball's not the sport for you. Thanks for coming to camp. And I was hurt, but I was like, man, I never even played before. How are you going to tell me I'm no good? This was the first time I ever touched a basketball. And so, moving on forward, I just, continue to play and love the game. I played soccer all growing up. I didn't start playing serious basketball till about 10th grade. And then, I started playing for the City Rocks. I played at Shenendehowa High School. I played the Empire State Games, which was big in New York. Did that for 6 years, won a bronze medal in that. I still remember playing New York City in the Scholastic year, and we beat Trevor Diggs before he was going to UNLV. And at the time, I was a Division III recruit. And, Coach Sheehy was the head coach at Williams College, and now he's the athletic director at Dartmouth. He told my parents in the crowd, he's like, your son's going to have scholarship offers. And then, I just continued to progress. And I always just loved the game. And love being around the game, love being around the people. And, basketball has been so good to me. It's taken me so many different places, Europe. And obviously when we were at GW, it took me to Japan. And I've just been able to touch so many guys' lives and make a difference. And that's what it's all about.
So talk about, growing up in Clifton Park, New York.
Yeah, suburb of Albany. My high school was a big high school, big suburban high school, probably one of the largest in the area. My graduating class from high school was over 600 students.
Wow.
So we have it's almost like a college campus with so many elementary schools on one kind of ground. And then there's a high school and 2 junior high schools when I was growing up that all fed to, Shenendehowa. Clifton Park, home of Kevin Herter, obviously plays for the Atlanta Hawks. That was the last team. My team won the section title in 1996, the Section 2 title. The next team ever to win it was Kevin Herter's team, and Kevin Herter's team won the state championship. So some great players played, though. Greg Kubek played at Duke. He played in 4 Final Fours. He was probably the other guy that people would have known that played at Shenendehowa. Brendan O'Sullivan was on his team. He played at Dartmouth. And so we've had some guys, but, living in Clifton Park, New York, it's, obviously a predominantly, white community, but we've always had, numerous African-American, and just try to keep our school as diverse as possible. And it was always just about, being the best person you could be, and trying to help. And I'm thankful for having great teachers in my life. And, some are still teaching to this day, and I try to go back. When I was at Siena, I graduated magna cum laude, and I was a scholar athlete. And so I was able to give back computers to my elementary school, which was pretty cool. And so just growing up, being able to kind of have that mindset of always giving. And I've tried to take that, throughout my life, and do the best I can be as a husband and a father, and kind of, using that message for good.
So when you were coming up, what was the basketball culture like around the Albany area, the suburbs, and the city?
Yes. Oh, so many good teams. We actually beat Albany High in the section championship, and they had two really good guards. Damon Shepard ended up going to play at Navy, and Lamar King ended up going to play at Radford. 2 years before that, Albany High had a great guard in Devonair Dees. He ended up going to play for Pat Kennedy at Florida State. He went to St. Thomas More. He was actually Ed Coda's roommate at St. Thomas More for Jerry Quinn. And so, basketball has always been good. So many close friends of mine have played, Schenectady High School, another inner city school. Mark Lyons ended up leaving there, going to South Kenton Brewster, playing at Xavier in Arizona. James Thomas, Texas's leading rebounder, went to Schenectady High and then went to Hargrave Military Academy. Rashawn Freeman went to UMass from Schenectady. Lionel Chalmers was an Albany kid. He went to the NBA. He was a guy that, played at Albany High. So, there's been some great players, guys I've grown up with, obviously. And then there's been guys kind of in the suburbs that no one really heard of. Eric Cooper was a tremendous player. He played at Loyola Maryland and Rice. He got recruited by a bunch of schools, even North Carolina. Davidson College wanted him. So, there's always been talent, and that's a credit to, just guys loving the game of basketball. I think that's one thing that has been able to kind of shown through this area, and you can see it kind of in the AAU scene, right? The Albany City Rocks were an AAU program that's kind of, taken off. I was one of the first guys to play for that program that, gave me a scholarship before they were even a Nike team. And so, to have a program like that solidify itself over the years, it's been over 20 years they've been in existence, I think speaks credit to upstate New York basketball.
Awesome. So talk about, your time at Shenendehowa and during your 4 years of high school.
Yeah, so it's that was an interesting time, and a credit to my parents. And it was funny. I wasn't a guy that played varsity as a sophomore or anything like that. I played on the freshman team, which had like 15 guys. And then, JV team, they brought up two kids to play that were, freshmen. And so they played over me. In the first game of my JV season, one of those players broke his wrist, and he had started over me. And I started every game that I was healthy for on JV all the way up through my last, my 2 years on varsity the following years. Played for a legendary high school coach named Jim Zullo. Jim actually has come to practices, tremendous guy, tremendous coach. He's in the, New York State Basketball Hall of Fame, and he played at UConn. And he also played professional basketball back in the 60s when that was the Brewers out of, I want to say it's out of like the Schenectady area. So it's it was great, man. There's so much history. I was the player of the year for the Times Union back in '96. Led the league and led the area in scoring. But at the end of the day, my high school team went 22-2, and that was what was impressive. We had a chance to, do some great things. We lost to Henniger out of Syracuse in the regionals to get to the state semifinals, and they had Marquise Walker, who ended up playing wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Went to the University of Michigan. And Dave Davis, who played cornerback at Syracuse as well. And Mo Brown, I think, went to Rutgers and then transferred to Coppin State. He was about a 6'9" forward. So we had our hands full. We lost that game in the regionals. But, so many fond memories of playing basketball at Shenendehowa and for a legendary coach in Jim Zullo. So
then you go off to Boston University? I'm sorry, University of New Hampshire. Talk about, your recruitment process during your high school days and then your time at UNH.
Yeah, so, I was an under-recruited guy. Like I said, I played soccer all grown up. I didn't start playing serious basketball till, the summer after my sophomore year. And so I just loved playing. I just continued to get better. I didn't really worry about the recruitment. I got good enough that I had Ivy League offers. Brown wanted me when Coach Dobbs was there. The Patriot League, Pat Flannery at Bucknell. But back then, the Patriot League didn't have scholarships either, and I wanted to prove to myself I was a Division I basketball player. And so I was going to do a postgraduate year at New Hampton. I had my deposit in. I would have played with Rafael Vidaretta, who went to Wake Forest, and so many other good players. Antonio Grant went to South Carolina. Tyler Murphy went to Vermont. So, I was ready to do that. Jim Hart put together an AAU team, brought me out to Vegas. I played well. I had like 37 or 38. Rest in peace on Michael Wright when he played for Chicago Nike, the former Arizona Wildcat and New York Knick. It was funny. I still remember that game out in Vegas. Joey Meyer was the head coach at DePaul, and Mike Dean, the former Siena coach, was the head coach at Marquette. And they were watching and loving it. This 6'3" guy from Albany City Rocks team that, basically no one ever knew about, gave 37 plus to a Chicago Nike team with some NBAers on there. And, we ended up losing the game, but, that's kind of how I was always just lived my life, is try to give everything I had in whatever I was doing at that present moment. And, so ends up not going to prep school. I get an offer from University of New Hampshire. I get an offer from University of San Diego. At the time, the assistant at San Diego was Kyle Smith, who's now the head coach at Washington State, former Columbia coach, obviously. And, I just thought that was too far away. I went up to New Hampshire, fell in love with the school and the location. And, I played 3 years there, was a team captain. And that was back when, obviously, you're wearing a Hofstra shirt. That was back when Speedy Claxton was at Hofstra for Jay Wright. And, and that was when Bill Herring was at Drexel and Malik Rose had just graduated. They had, so many good players there. Joe Linderman was a big guy they had that was really good. Delaware had Mike Bray. John Giannini was at Maine as the head coach there. So that was when the America East was no joke. And, it was a great experience. I continued to grow and get better. But at the end of the day, I wanted to transfer to Siena because I wanted to prove to people I could play there. Coming out of high school, Bob Byer, the head coach at the time, and I love Bob, didn't think I could play. I said I could walk on. And, he saw me score 40 points in the game. And so I was like, hey, I'll come home. And I actually gave up a full scholarship at New Hampshire to go to Siena to prove that I could do it. And I was a sixth man for a team under Louis Orr, now at Georgetown, obviously. And we won 20 games and won a share of the regular season MAAC titles. For me, it was never about, any accolades. It was just about proving we could win and proving I could do the job. And I knew when I was going to have a chance to play professionally overseas, that was a goal of mine, that I was going to have to be a role player anyway. So I just bought into that role at the college level to get used to that role. And it helped us win some games. I had some great teammates, Dwayne Archibald, Prosper Karangwa, Marcus Faison, Scott Knapp, Corey Osinski, all those guys. Those Siena teams were so good. So just a chance to be able to give of myself to help win for the greater good, I thought that was important. So that kind of took me to Siena as a player.
Then you went, and played overseas for a couple of years in Italy. Talk about, you are of Italian descent. Talk about going back home to the motherland to play professional basketball.
Yeah, it was a dream come true. It was a long process. I had to get Italian citizenship. I thought that was great, though. My heritage, obviously, my grandparents came from Italy. So I got to learn a little about my family's history going through this process with my agent. And, it was awesome. Some guys know they want to be coaches and they go the GA route. They become a graduate assistant and they learn and they get into a program. And for me, I didn't know I wanted to coach. It was about just kind of playing and seeing the world and building relationships. So many good friends came from me playing over in Italy. Dan Cross played on a Final Four team at Florida for Lon Kruger, and he's a friend. And Dante Mathis is a very good point guard that I played with over in Sicily and in Milan. And so I was able to grow my network and just meet people. Antonio Smith, the former Michigan State Flintstone, was on my team. James Collins, the former Florida State star guard that was all conference in the ACC. And so I was able to go and kind of live a dream where you're playing basketball and you're getting paid to do something you love. And at the same time, you're learning about your history and your culture. I was able to play in all different regions. I played in Sicily. I played in the heel of the boot in a place called Massafra. which was right on the Appian Way that Julius Caesar used to take to Rome when he was traveling, which was kind of cool to learn about that. I played outside Milan in a place called Novara, and I played in Bologna. So just being able to learn about the culture and see different regions and learn different dialects, and meet different people. I really enjoyed that. And at the same time, I was able to kind of find out who I was as a person and, really found out what made me tick. And that was, being able to help people and give. And I had blown out my knee after my first year in a pro-am back home. And I was able to start working with kids with special needs. And I didn't want to be a teacher, but I knew I wanted to help kids. And I felt like as a one-on-one aide in classrooms with Down syndrome and autistic kids, that I could kind of give love and help and mentor without have to really worrying about the red tape and the paperwork that a teacher would have to do. And obviously, I didn't do it for money. The money wasn't anything great, but it was health benefits. It was a chance to just kind of help little kids that needed love and needed some help. So that kind of took me to progressing through returning from playing overseas. And that's always a tough time because your agent's telling you, hey, I spoke to this team, I spoke to that team, and you still got to wait for deals to come through. That's, especially now, I don't know how these guys that are all waiting to play this coming season, what they're doing to grow their mind and to stay sharp. Because, when you could work out all the time and get in gyms and get in runs, it was tough waiting on your agent to give you a call. Now these guys aren't sure of, all that stuff, and they have to find different ways to stay in shape.
Absolutely. So the City Rocks started in the 90s. You were one of the first players to play in that organization. Talk about, actually coming back and coaching for them years later.
Yeah, and that was always just awesome. You get to build relationships with guys, and then you're younger, right? So I was in my 20s, and I'm coaching guys that are 16, 17. I'm in my early 20s. Tiki Maben, who was at one point the best player in the country when he was a freshman coming out of high school, and Edwin Ublis, who was super talented, Mark Lyons, Taylor Battle, Jimmer Fredette, a bunch of guys I coached. But it was always about just the giving part. I was able to give back to a program that believed in me, and to Jim Hart, who helped me achieve my dreams. And so I was able to go to practices and meet with the coaches and make sure things were being taught that needed to be taught at the younger levels, and help with the fundraising, and help coach a team that maybe I hadn't coached before, but the coach had a family obligation. And so just to kind of engulf myself in that culture and helping kids and giving back to a program that helped me, it was very worthwhile. And I still, have an affinity for that in my heart to this day.
Awesome. So then, I know you did a stint at Siena as a director of ops person. Then, after some time with the City Rocks, you got the assistant job at Fairfield. Talk about, that experience of being assistant coach in the MAAC.
Yeah, that was just awesome learning experience working for Fran McCaffrey at Siena. I had got done playing overseas, and my good friend who I hired, who's my defensive coordinator, Anthony Weish, introduced me to Fran when Fran got the job. And that's kind of how I got the job, through Tone. Fran just taught me so much about the business. And, I think for all these young guys that want to get in the business and just want to be an assistant, I mean, the way you learn the business is from the operation spot. You see how everything works. You see how college basketball is a business, and how, a program is run from the inside out, and what messages you're teaching and what you're doing to build your culture, and how you're traveling from, the organization of it to, where you eat, to where you stay, to all that planning. And then, like I said, I was fortunate enough to work for Ed Cooley, and my assistant, Bob Simon, who's my offensive coordinator, introduced me to Ed. And it wasn't the first time that Ed had a job that I get it. I got it the second time. And so, that's always a learning lesson when I talk to young coaches in this profession about just staying the course and building the relationships. And, Ed's a great man, and thankful for the opportunity. I love the MAAC, obviously having played in it. And I was lucky. I've been able to work at all schools in great cities, Boston U in Boston, George Washington in DC, Fairfield is beautiful. It's only, an hour and change from New York City. And now obviously Siena. So there was just so many positives there, but, Fairfield was great. Such a beautiful school, and so many great people down there as well.
Mm. And then, even though it was short, you did some time at Providence. Talk about, your short stint in the Big East.
Yeah, that was, I don't even think I was 30 years old yet. I might have just turned 30. And it was awesome. Your goal is, right, anytime, you go somewhere, you want to win and help your boss move on. And so we had the first time ever in Fairfield's history, we went to back-to-back postseasons. We went to the CIT and we beat a George Mason team. It was one of the greatest comebacks in postseason history. We were down, I think, 27 with like 12 minutes to go. And, we came back and beat Mason at Mason when Jim Larinaga was there. Then we go out to Creighton and we lose to Dana Altman when he was there at Creighton. The following year we go and we win the league outright in the MAAC. We get upset in the semifinals, and then we play in the NIT, and we go and we beat Tim Miles when he was at Colorado State. Long story short, we win. Ed gets the job at Providence, and he tells us we're going to have jobs. He's just not sure of the role. And I was an assistant for a little bit, and then I had to be put in the ops spot for what Ed needed from his staff. And for me, I could have stayed at Providence forever and been happy, but I wanted to continue to grow my philosophy and learn more. And my love is recruiting and on the court teaching and working guys out and just being able to get out and meet people. And so it was a hard decision, but I was able to go. Joe Jones had a need for my skill set, and was able to move from Providence to BU. But at that time, it was great because I was recruiting Chris Dunn and got to know him and his family real well, because we were at Fairfield, and I was recruiting Chris a little bit at Fairfield because he was up the street at New London High School. And so was able to, build that relationship for Ed and help with that, which was awesome. And then to see his success was great. And then I was able to go to Boston U and have an impact there. And, I turned down a job at Virginia Tech to work for James Johnson. And then that same year I turned that job down. I met my wife, and we won the Patriot League with Maurice Watson and Cedric Hankerson, John Papali, DJ Irving, Don Morris, all those guys. And that was amazing. And then from there, we win the Patriot League in our first season, the inaugural season for Boston U in the Patriot League. And then I go to George Washington.
So how tough was it to turn that job down at VTech?
Yeah, man, it was tough. I went out there. It's a beautiful campus. It's a similar campus to Penn State within, the location, right? It's kind of in a rural area. There's not a major city close by. But you have all the bells and whistles and the beautiful practice facility and a weight room and the beautiful office and just from A to Z, it's covered there. But I talked with some mentors, and they just said, hey, hold your ground. You're in a great spot. You work for a great man in Joe Jones, and you guys have a good team coming back, and don't feel you have to jump at this ACC offer just because it's the ACC. Make sure that coach is on solid footing, and and I love James Johnson. I know James well, and I told him I couldn't take the job. I appreciate it, but for me, it was never about the money. It was always about the best fit and what was best for my career. I left George Washington to come work for Jamion Christian at Siena, and I took over a $20,000 pay cut. So for me, it was always about just trying to learn and grow your kind of philosophy and learn from the best people you can. And I think that's what life's all about is never really being worried about the money, just trying to grow your mindset, your mentality, and grow as a person. And the more people you meet, and whether you take the good or the bad, or you learn what you like or what you don't like, either way you're learning.
So talk about your 4 years under Jamion Christian at GW.
Well, so I worked for Jamion at Siena for a year, and so learning from Jamion at Siena was phenomenal. Just with he had obviously worked for Shaka Smart for a year at VCU, and then he was able to run his own program at his alma mater, Mount St. Mary's, and was very successful the year there, going to tournaments and winning the NEC. And so I was able to just kind of hone my skills with a guy that was similar to me in age and passion, and I just love Jamion's energy and kind of just the person he is. And so now I was able to see what I liked, what he didn't like. That's where I got the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator system from. And that's something that Shaka Smart does at Texas. And I think he was doing that at VCU as well. And, I just learned so much, learning from Jamion was great. And then obviously, I had worked for Maurice Joseph a little bit at GW for 2 years, who's another great coach and great man. And, just always thankful for all those opportunities.
So Jamion Christian he leaves Siena after that 1 year, and then fast forward to the fall of 2019, you get the head coaching job. So you were a player, a director of ops person, an assistant, and now you're the head coach. Like, how did that feel? Like, were you nervous or were you excited to have that opportunity?
Just so much joy and jubilation. I still remember my press conference like it was yesterday. And, when I got the job and my wife's reaction and my family's reaction, and, my sister was able to be there at the press conference, and she had just moved back from California. And, oh man, it was a dream come true, some place that you have an affinity for, and, you're able to go there as a player, and prove to people you can do something. And then you're able to, help build a program, which Fran did. I was there on that ground level with him for his first recruiting class with Edwin Ubelis and Kenny Hasbrook. Kenny was first, and then the next year was Edwin and Ronald Moore and Alex Franklin, and, some guys that are, folklore in Siena history. And then to be able to come back as an assistant and try to help restore that image again after an 8-win season, and win 17 games with Jamion. And then all of a sudden now it's my turn. And, as an assistant, I think that's why everybody does it. That's why you put in the long hours. That's why you try to do things the right way. And all that you do is to hopefully, like I said, God willing, you have a chance to run your own program, no matter where that is. But then to be able to do that at home in front of your friends and family, was just such a blessing, and so thankful for our late president, Brother Ed Cooley. Just a tremendous man. I know he's happy in heaven, but also just hoping that better days are ahead for everybody. But just so thankful, and it just, you can't really put it into words, especially that feeling when we were able to win a championship this year, and my first time as a head coach to win a regular season championship. It was so special, and that can't be taken away from us.
So, talk about a regular game day at for Siena. You guys even though the MAAC is kind of like it is a mid-major conference, you guys get to play in a big arena in downtown Albany, like the Times Union Center. Like, talk about the atmosphere that we can expect on a regular day.
Oh man, the atmosphere is great. We get, I say we have the best fans. We get over 6,300 fans a game. We've been in the top 100 in attendance for the last 24 years. So typical day for me, I'll get up, I'll hang out with my dog. On my way down to the office in Clifton Park, Fruit Loops, like a healthy bowl, acai bowl spot, smoothies. I'll get to the office probably around 12, meet with the staff. We'll head to the arena for shoot around. I'll go get my favorite hot roast beef sandwich from Maurice's Deli, which is right on the corner next to the arena. See my people there. Then we'll have shoot around for an hour. Then we'll get back. The guys will have pregame meal. I'll get my 3 miles in. Then I'll go take a shower, read a little bit of a book for about a half hour. Then I'll head to the arena. And then next thing you know, it's go time. It's always the toughest part is that, that 30 to 40 minutes right before the game. You got to do the pregame radio show, and you got to do the live news broadcast, at 60 before. And then you get about 20 to 30 minutes where I'm just back there with my thoughts. And I try to read. I always try to bring a book in with me. That kind of just stimulates my mind in a kind of a different way. So I don't really start just thinking, because we've already put in all the work for the game plan. We've already, made sure the guys are in a good spot. And then next thing you know, we walk out and get to see 6,300 fans excited for Siena basketball. And, this year we were 14-0 at home. So that was special.
Wow. So this year you guys had a very successful season, 20-10, 15-5 in conference. Talk about the magical season that was, unfortunately interrupted by the pandemic.
Yeah, I just thought it was obviously there's always highs and lows and ups and downs, and I thought the upperclassmen did a great job. Elijah Burns and Manny Camper, Matt Hine, just so many guys stepped up and understood, hey, this is what we need to do to kind of get over this hurdle. And by no means was it easy. I think we won 13 out of our last 14 and 10-0 to end the season. And it's just a credit to my players and my staff. They understood what was needed. And I think I grew as a head coach too, day by day. And that's all you can hope for, is to grow and get better every day. And that's how I coach my team. We work on just, being the best we can be every single day and making sure we're giving 100% of the time in all we do, whether it's in the community, the classroom, or the court. And so I was really proud of our guys once that pandemic hit. Obviously everyone's disappointed. You win a game in the quarterfinals, you're getting ready to play a semifinal opponent, no matter who that's going to be. And then, the MAAC tournament's canceled. And then you hear, hey, if there is an NCAA tournament, you're going to go. And then 20 minutes later, the NCAA tournament's canceled, and now your season's over. And I haven't been able to hug my guys or, catch up with them other than, Zoom since that last day. And now we may not see them again to the start of school in September. So, making sure they're in a good spot is the most important thing to me. But I was so proud of them because they were able to, as a group, get over a 3.0 that spring semester. And so I think that just shows their dedication to understanding that they want to be the best they can be and all that they can do. And that's what I'm so proud of about these guys.
So, as far as, recruits, like what does Coach Carmen Maciariello have to have in order for a player to be on his roster?
Yeah, you know what? You got to be a great person. Obviously, you have to be talented. You have to fit a need for us. If you're a guard, you got to be a bigger guard. You got to be able to shoot the basketball, and you got to be able to defend. But I want guys that are hungry. I want guys that are enthusiastic, appreciative, and tough, right? So that's, we talk about we want to eat every day. So I want guys that are excited to live their life every single day to be the best that they can be. I want guys that are appreciative. I want guys that are appreciative of the opportunity, that everybody knows that, hey, I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful to have a free education to play college basketball. I'm thankful to have great brothers in this locker room with me. And I appreciate everything I'm going through, whether it's a struggle or it's a success. I'm appreciative of that opportunity because I'm growing. And then that toughness, right? I want guys that are tough mentally, physically, and emotionally because, it's not easy being a student athlete. It's not easy, having to have other demands on your time. And now we know in today's world, it's a lot tougher. And so, I need guys that are wanting to eat every day and that are going to live with that enthusiasm, that appreciation, and that toughness.
So what underclassmen, like give me the names of some returning players that will make an impact at Siena next year.
Yeah, so, I think it's a big year for Gary Harris. Gary is a rising sophomore, 6'7", tremendous athlete. He's from LA. Just great kid, always smiling. He averaged around 5 points a game. I think we can get him up to, 10 points a game this year. It's a big step for him his sophomore year. And then Jordan King was another freshman that played, local kid from CBA, Christian Brothers Academy in Albany. Great shooter, gym rat, hard worker, good on-ball defender. And, I think he'll take another step. He understands what's needed, what has to be done. Kyle Young was a 6'9" freshman who will be a sophomore too. So there's three guys that'll be sophomores that we'll lean on heavily. And then we return Manny Camper, Jalen Pickett, Don Carey. Those three guys did the bulk of the scoring. Obviously, we lose Elijah Burns. But Manny was obviously a first-team all-conference forward. We play him at the forward spot, but he's really a big guard. We play with four guards. And, he had over 20 double-doubles this year. He's just a guy that can get it off the glass and start the break. He can make a three. He can finish at the rim. So we're working on his mid-range game a little bit. Don Carey's a double-digit scorer who's just a good combo guard that knows how to play and is just a gym rat as well. And then, obviously, Jalen Pickett was player of the year in the conference. And then we bring in, Dana Tate sat out, transfer from URI, super skilled, multi-position player. Then we got a great freshman class, Aiden Carpenter, came in and actually enrolled early, was at Lee Academy in Maine, enrolled early. So he's already been in our system for, a few months. He's a big guard that can pick you up 94 feet and he's super athletic. Just another gym rat. I think the more guys you have that love being in the gym just kind of grows your culture. And then Colin Golson from Detroit, 6'5.5", 7-foot wingspan, another multi-position guy, phenomenal athlete, tremendous worker. And then Bennett Kwasinski from Illinois went to Loyola Academy. Another really talented multi-position guy, about 6'9", can handle, dribble, pass, and shoot. So, I think the foundation's here. We got to make sure we're doing everything we can every single day to be the best we can be. And, I think, we continue to grow this program to where we know it can go.
So final question, what's next in the future for Carmen Maciariello and the Siena Saints?
You know what? Just looking forward to, making sure these guys are doing what they can in their summer courses. We started summer class last week. And so, these guys have to take those online classes just to make sure they're, progressing towards their degree. And, for me, it's just making sure these guys are all of a sound mind and they're in a great mental space. I make sure I check in with them daily and, know that I'm here for them in this trying time for our country. And I think that's the most important thing. Obviously, I've never walked in their shoes, but just for them to know that I'm here and I support them is important to me and important to our college and our program.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for coming on to talk to me once again and for sharing your testimonial. You have a wonderful story, especially starting from 4th grade. I'm sure that you use that as motivation to keep you going, and you continue to have a great story today. And I wish you nothing but success at Siena.
Dave, thank you so much, man. Love what you do, and stay safe. And we appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much.
Likewise. So everybody, this is episode 18. Check this out on YouTube, Facebook, and IGTV. Stay safe. God bless. Peace.